Funding for Shaperillis is provided by Squarespace, the sponsor of today's video. From websites and online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business.
Hey gang, so I decided it would be really funny if I ranked the Star Wars movies in every possible way except for actually as movies. I already ranked the scores of the 9 Skywalker Saga films in a collab with Sideways, but then I thought, what's an even more arbitrary ranking I could do of these stupid-ass wonderful movies? Which leads us to today's video, ranking the opening crawls. I mean, sure, why not? The opening crawl is one of the most iconic parts of Star Wars, kicking off each of the 9 mainline Skywalker Saga films by relaying important information about the state of the galaxy before letting you loose to watch the latest Space Odyssey unfold. Of course, not every one of these piles of paragraphs floating through space is created equal. Some of them are really exciting and worthwhile, while others reference events you can only see in Fortnite. That's cool. In my opinion, a good opening crawl should draw a straight line out between the events of the previous film and this new one. They should acknowledge what came immediately before and build on that with new information that ties directly into what we're about to see. However, one trap that the opening crawls can fall into is revealing too much important shit that came out of nowhere and really should have been shown to us on screen in the previous film or in this current one. The crawl shouldn't contain crucial story beats, it should just offer a connective tissue between films or give you information about what you're immediately about to see. Some crawls don't do this. You know which one I'm talking about. Another crucial crawl function is getting you excited, since these are supposed to be pretty exciting adventure serials. You would hope that the opening text at the beginning really hooks you and gets you pumped for the awesome adventure you're about to go on. It's not fun to be bored by the crawl, because what does that say about the movie? Speaking of which, obviously with this ranking, I'm putting my thoughts on the actual movies aside and judging only the opening crawls. There are some problems with the movies themselves that bleed into the crawls, but I'm gonna do my best to not blame the crawls for these problems and offer changes I make to the crawls without changing the movie whatsoever. So yeah, I guess that's about it. Why don't we start ranking these paragraphical puppies?
Disappointment in the game of life.
Whoa, what a funny coincidence. The worst Star Wars movie has the worst Star Wars crawl. When I was watching this movie in theaters and I saw the words "The Dead Speak" appear on screen, I turned to Patrick and whispered, wow, I hate this movie already. If the Revenge of the Sith title crawl opening up with war was just a tad corny, this is a fucking tsunami of corn. We're reaching corn levels that shouldn't even be humanly possible. Right off the bat, I cannot take anything about this movie's premise seriously because it opens with the dumbest, most cringeworthy line in any of these crawls. And it just gets worse from here. The galaxy has heard a mysterious broadcast. A threat of revenge in the sinister voice of the late Emperor Palpatine. That's a pretty major fucking thing to drop on us that wasn't even hinted at in the previous 2 movies. You know how I just said the opening crawls should draw a straight line between the previous movie and the current one? It seems JJ missed the memo and instead drew the most incoherent squiggle you could possibly imagine. Not only is this insane revelation completely out of nowhere and incongruent with the last movie, but it doesn't even make sense on its own. Oh no, it's in his sinister voice. Well, how do you know it's him and not just someone impersonating him? And why would he threaten revenge when all that does is give the rebellion a chance to stop him? How come he doesn't just reach out to Kylo Ren, the person he actually wanted to talk to? And what kind of broadcast can just reach out to the entire galaxy like that? Why, there would have to be some sort of massively online multiplayer game that everyone's playing in order for Palpatine's message to reach as many people as possible. But what sort of game would have such a radical player base? If only Fortnite were here. Yeah, the message that the opening crawl speaks of can only be heard in a Fortnite event. This is real. This is not a joke. This is what movies are now. Excuses for Fortnite tie-ins. You're welcome, society! Anyway, the second paragraph is whatever. Just the typical response you'd expect from Leia, and the typical thing you'd expect Rey to be doing. However, this paragraph is a good example of another problem with this crawl. Really excessive capitalization. The first 6 movies used capitalization very sparingly, only emphasizing the really important shit. Death Star, Galactic Empire, Army of the Republic. They only turned on caps lock once in the 3 even-numbered crawls, and the odd-numbered ones don't use it at all. The previous 2 sequels ramped it up a bit, but it still felt restrained and impactful. They only capitalized First Order, Republic, and Resistance, aka the main factions in the galaxy. This use of capitalization could have been better, which we'll get to later, but it's not bad. J.J. Abrams himself directed a movie that uses capitalization in its crawl in a perfectly fine way. And yet, for some ungodly reason, he capitalized everything in this one. Revenge, Emperor Palpatine, General Leia Organa, Rey, First Order, Kylo Ren. This one crawl has twice as much capitalization as the entire original 6-film saga. It doesn't work. It looks ridiculous. Nothing in this text holds more weight than anything else. Nothing matters. When everything's capitalized, nothing will be. The only thing you needed to capitalize was either revenge or Emperor Palpatine, because that's where the emphasis should be. Pick one of those, preferably Emperor Palpatine, and then you're good. Why can't this movie do literally anything right? Also, Rey, the last hope of the Jedi. Just call her the Last Jedi, you fucking cowards. It'd be a cool way to connect with the title of the last film and the opening crawl of The Force Awakens that calls Luke the Last Jedi. I've never seen a single film trilogy that hates itself more than this one. Anyway, the last paragraph sucks. It's cool that they say the Phantom Emperor as a subtle reference to Phantom Menace that also fits this movie's story well, but everything else about this last paragraph is just so vague and inconclusive. Kylo Ren rages in search of the Phantom Emperor. Okay, well, where is he going and what is he doing? This last paragraph feels almost as confused as the movie does. I mean, it starts with meanwhile, even though they just used the word while in the second paragraph. Can we get a proofreader in here? But in addition, its only concern is setting up the immediate first scene of this film without considering its status as the final crawl of the entire saga. One thing I love about Return of the Jedi's crawl is how it takes the information meant to lead you into this movie's first scene and uses it to say something really conclusive about the fate of the galaxy in its last paragraph. This looks like a cringy edgelord fanfic. Oh, don't worry guys, Kylo's gonna destroy any threat to his power. Oh, gee whiz. But yeah, this doesn't feel like the opening text of an ending chapter in the slightest. At best, it's generic and vague. At worst, it actively makes me want to vomit. It's unfocused, poorly conceived, embarrassing,
horrible, putrid, poorly prepared, vile, unappetizing,
and just overall miserable. So, overall, better than the movie it came from.
And when I kill you, I will have killed the Last Jedi.
In all honesty, I kind of feel like The Last Jedi was dealt a bad hand in the opening crawl department. The Force Awakens is the only Star Wars film to end on an honest-to-goodness cliffhanger, a scene that's pretty clearly expected to continue from here into the very next film. As such, this is the only Star Wars film where no time passes between the previous film and this one, and it shows in the opening crawl. The First Order reigns. I mean, kinda, I guess? Yeah, they blew up the Republic, but did they really have time to take control of the entire galaxy during the events of the last movie? Especially as their greatest weapon was being destroyed by the Resistance? Having decimated the peaceful Republic, Supreme Leader Snoke now deploys his merciless legions to seize military control of the galaxy. Oh, okay, so he doesn't have military control of the galaxy yet, he's just deploying his goons to go seize it now. That does make sense considering how no time has passed since the last movie. But then, why did you say that the First Order reigns? They're about to reign, but right now they're not. Ryan, my dude, I love you, but please stick to writing Knives Out movies instead of Star Wars. I also kind of feel like capitalization would have been better used for Supreme Leader Snoke instead of First Order. I don't know, opening up with First Order in all caps just looks tacky to me. And you really want to sell the power of Snoke in particular to make his death later more subversive and effective. But, it's not a big deal. The second paragraph is just a big bag of nothing. Yep, Leia and the Resistance are still the good guys. They still want Luke to come back. The phrase, restore a spark of hope to the fight, is pretty nice and elegant, sure. But it doesn't change the fact that this is essentially the same information we got from the Force Awakens crawl. The status quo remains the same. No new information here. The third paragraph starting with, but the Resistance has been exposed, just feels super sloppy. My third grade teacher would be ashamed of this movie for starting a sentence with the word but. But! It's fine in casual conversation, but it looks really unprofessional here. Maybe if it started with however, it'd be fine. However, that doesn't really solve the problem of this sentence once again offering no new information. The paragraph at least ends with some new stuff, stating that the First Order is speeding towards the Rebel base and the brave heroes are escaping. You know, stuff that we could probably already assume was gonna happen anyway. If there was any Star Wars movie that really didn't need a crawl, it's clearly this one. 85% of this is old old news, and the other 15% is either sloppy, contradictory, or really, really obvious. It's honestly hard to say how this crawl could have been salvaged. Like I said, it was dealt a bad hand from the start. But maybe it would have been better if we got more insight into the mindsets of the villains after Starkiller Base's destruction. We could hear about Snoke's fury, or General Hux's desire to redeem the failure of Starkiller Base and snuff out the resistance for good. Hearing that Hux really wants those pesky resistors dead would also strengthen the subversive comedy when Poe embarrasses him with a Yo Mama joke. Disclaimer, the Yo Mama joke is not funny and shouldn't have been in the movie, but as long as it is and we can't change that, setting up Hux's thirst for revenge in the opening crawl could have strengthened the little comedy it had. I'm just grasping at straws at this point. This crawl ain't great, and it's pretty obvious why. Moving on.
Captain Kennedy.
Oh, what the Phantom Menace is that guy's problem?
I don't even know where to start with Phantom Menace. What are you supposed to get out of this one? Turmoil has engulfed the Galactic Republic. Oh, okay, that's a good start. Is it like terrorism or corruption with the leadership or something? Nope. They're just disputing the taxation of trade routes. How is that turmoil? That just sounds like a normal-ass debate. This paragraph offers no sense of danger or immediate interest, and it's only 2 sentences long. This feels like it belongs in a fan film. A fan film that's dedicated to being extremely boring for some inexplicable reason. The second paragraph then delivers some slightly more interesting information that they clearly should have opened with. The fact that the greedy Trade Federation has stopped all shipping to the small planet of Naboo. Seriously, the first paragraph should have been, turmoil has engulfed the Galactic Republic. With a blockade of deadly battleships, the greedy Trade Federation has stopped all shipping to the planet of Naboo. Still not the most interesting thing, but a step up at least. As is, the first paragraph already put me to sleep, and the second one isn't exactly waking me up from my coma. The language hoping to resolve the matter also sounds rather peaceful and altruistic, and it doesn't really jive with the second part of the sentence being, with a blockade of deadly battleships. The third paragraph is alright, but it suffers from the opposite problem as the first. It's way too long and wordy. I kinda like how it addresses that Congress is endlessly debating this chain of events, setting up how useless they are later in the story, and being a good juxtaposition for the Chancellor taking action and dispatching Jedi Knights to deal with the conflict without informing the Senate. And I think the callback to Obi-Wan's line in A New Hope about Jedi Knights being the guardians of peace and justice in the galaxy is neat and a good way to introduce original trilogy fans to this bold new era of Star Wars stories. But I just feel like one of these drawn-out explanations maybe had to go. It starts to feel like too much of a run-on and unfocused sentence by the end, and this could have been avoided if it either started with, the Supreme Chancellor has secretly dispatched, or taken out the description of the Jedi Knights. Ultimately, however, this isn't a huge deal because this is still the only interesting paragraph in the entire crawl. It is pretty cool to hear about Jedi Knights going on a secret mission, but at this point, it just feels like too little, too late. This is a really unengaging way to open a Star Wars movie, and if we're not going to change the actual plot of the film, the crawl could have at least provided some more interesting information. If we do what I suggested and combine the first and second paragraphs, then maybe we could have a new paragraph hinting at a more sinister force driving this trade dispute. Little do the Jedi know that there's a puppeteer lurking in the shadows. A phantom menace, if you will. I think it would be really interesting if we established that unbeknownst to the heroes, the Trade Federation is taking orders from a mysterious Dark Lord. It's not revealing too much, since we see that happen pretty early on in the movie, and it would really inject this crawl with the life it desperately needs. So yeah, not the worst crawl ever, but it's still not very good in the slightest.
Oh no! Another Attack of the Clones!
Honestly, for how much I really don't like Attack of the Clones, I can't say its crawl is the worst thing in the world. Could be more exciting and less vague, but I think it does offer a few intriguing concepts and mysteries. The first paragraph does kind of feel significant. I mean, several thousand solar systems are leaving the Republic. That's a pretty significant shift in the dynamics of the galaxy, even if it is following up on the less than engaging political aspects of the previous movie. Speaking of which, I can't help but feel like turmoil has engulfed the Galactic Senate would have been a better opening for this movie's crawl, and the taxation of trade routes coming into dispute would have been better suited for unrest. But oh well, live and learn, George. Unfortunately, I think the second paragraph is a lot more flawed than the first one. We introduce the mysterious Count Dooku as the leader of the Separatist movement. Okay, that's mildly intriguing. But then we say that the Separatist movement has made it difficult for the limited number of Jedi Knights to maintain peace and order in the galaxy. What the heck does that mean? What are the Separatists doing exactly that the Jedi would be needed for? They're not attacking anyone with battle droids as far as we know. So maybe if this crawl did a better job at establishing that the threat and Phantom Menace was just a taste of the threats we're about to see in this movie, then I'd believe that the Jedi are as overwhelmed as this opening states. As is, this crawl suffers from a much less severe case of one of the issues that plagued Rise of Skywalker's crawl. It doesn't really draw a straight line from the previous film to this one. Even though 10 whole years have passed between these films, you'd hope the crawl would address some of the events of Phantom Menace and how they'll play into this one since they're part of the same trilogy. But it really doesn't, outside of addressing the existence of the Senate and the fact that Padme used to be queen, which doesn't matter anymore because she's now a senator. So yeah, this crawl doesn't really bridge the gap between movies all that well, and the threat of the Separatists isn't really elaborated upon, but thankfully the final paragraph ain't half bad. It also suffers from the problem of why exactly are the Jedi overwhelmed, but if you just manage to take the crawl's word for it that they are overwhelmed, the idea of an army of the Republic being made is a pretty big deal. It definitely deserves to be the only capitalized part out of all the prequel crawls, because it's the first true indication of the rapidly approaching empire that'll take over the Republic and the galaxy. It's just such a sinister concept, even in text form. Army of the Republic. An active military force to assist the peacekeepers. Yeah, that's a good ominous thing to end an opening crawl with. I think the strengths of this crawl balance out the weaknesses to make something that's an okay way to start this movie. I wish it was less vague about why the Jedi needed assistance from an army, and it would have been nice if they mentioned the Trade Federation and their droid army in order to up the encroaching threat level and make the events of Phantom Menace feel like they mattered to the ongoing story. But yeah, overall, not too bad.
Here we are,
The Empire Strikes Back. The best Star Wars movie with a pretty great opening crawl. It's not the most amazing one, but it gets the job done very well and it doesn't have any major flaws. The first paragraph perfectly establishes the dark tone of the film, stating that even though the Death Star was destroyed, the Empire's troops still drove the rebels out of their base and are hunting them down. This is about as natural of a straight line as you can possibly draw out between the end of the first film and this one. It perfectly catches you up on the state of affairs within the galaxy, and it lets you know that despite the massive victory in the previous film, the danger is far from over. It's a super effective way to keep the momentum from the first film going as you enter this new one. The second paragraph continues discussing what those plucky rebels have been up to, though I find some of its wording to be a bit bizarre. A group of freedom fighters led by Luke Skywalker isn't really accurate, like Luke's not the leader of the rebellion, nor is he even in charge of this one base. The only thing he leads in this movie is the Snowspeeder assault, so I don't know why they word it as if he's in charge of all the rebels. Though, to be fair, I racked my brain trying to come up with a better way to word it, and I really couldn't think of one. A group of freedom fighters including Luke Skywalker? Luke Skywalker and the Rebel Alliance? It's a bit of a toughie trying to figure out what rolls off the tongue, or rather the page, or rather the floating paragraph in space. But honestly, this isn't too bad as is. He is a prominent figure among the rebels, and it does say he's leading a group of freedom fighters and not explicitly the entire Rebel Alliance, so it's whatever, I guess. I can buy it. The third paragraph is solid, but a bit of an unimpactful way to end things. First of all, considering how much emphasis is on Vader's tyranny in this movie, I think it wouldn't have hurt to capitalize his name. Imagine being a Star Wars fan watching this movie in theaters in 1980 and seeing Darth Vader in all caps. You'd probably shit yourself. But aside from the lack of emphasis on Vader's name, I feel like it's weird to end the paragraph by talking about the thousands of remote probes in the far reaches of space, instead of talking about Vader's obsession with Skywalker. I don't really know the best way to word that either. Maybe like, the evil Lord Darth Vader has dispatched thousands of remote probes into the far reaches of space in order to fulfill his obsessive need to find young Skywalker. I don't know, something like that. I think it's better and far more ominous and foreshadowy to end on Vader's need to find Luke, rather than just mentioning that in the middle of the paragraph. Overall, this is a strong crawl that keeps the stakes high and gives you all the information you need to know. I just feel like parts of it could have been worded or organized better, and they could have put better emphasis on the main villain, but yeah, overall, really good shit. Alright, now for the greatest crawl of all. Turmoil has engulfed the Galactic Republic. There's no good place the Senate and the Jedi Order can use to make a website. Fortunately, there is an easy solution. Squarespace, an online website builder that you can use to create beautiful websites and such. That's it, that's the whole crawl. It was still better than Rise of Skywalker's crawl, at least. Anyway, let's take a break now so we can talk about Squarespace and stuff. Squarespace is a fantastic, intuitive, online website builder that allows you to create beautiful websites for your business or personal hobby. Present your work using Squarespace's professional portfolio designs. Display projects in customizable galleries and add password-protected pages to share private works with clients. You can even present your videos from YouTube, Vimeo, and Animoto on your Squarespace site. Add an image overlay to your video to improve your website's load speed by waiting to embed video players until playback starts. Every design automatically includes a unique mobile presence that matches the overall style of your website, so your content will look great on every device, every time. And if you don't want that, you can always disable the mobile view from Website Manager. Buying a domain from Squarespace is so simple because there are no hidden fees or price hikes. Each domain comes with an ad-free parking page and free WHOIS privacy on eligible domains. Squarespace sells over 200 top-level domains, so you can find the perfect name for your website. Choose a URL that ends in .com, .net, .org, or you can always get a more specific one like .art if you want to be fancy. If you're ready to share your passions or promote your business with the rest of the world, head to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/ShapeForAlice to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
It's the Revenge of the Sith!
I feel like Revenge of the Sith scroll has to be the most divisive, love it or hate it one out of the 9. And I'm gonna be honest, I was about to say that I'm a little bit mixed on it, but the more I look at it, the more I realize it's honestly really good in spite of some flaws. Dare I say, it's pretty iconic and a bombastic and exciting way to open a film. If you perceive the previous prequel paragraphs as pretentious and poorly plotted, please peruse this pleasantly pronounced, powerful prose. War! The Republic is crumbling under attacks by the ruthless Sith Lord, Count Dooku. Not only is that a perfect bridge between the ending of the previous film and this one, but considering how large in scale the battle was in Attack of the Clones, it's incredibly easy to picture Dooku and his minions doing some real damage to the Republic. Plus, the words used to describe these events are vivid and expressive. Crumbling, ruthless, stunning, fiendish, besieged. George got a ton of great use out of his word-a-day calendar. It's some solid stuff. Yeah, opening up with war is a bit silly, especially considering this is already a series called Star Wars, like the war is implied. But it doesn't take me out of the crawl nearly as much as the dead speak. It's a little corny, but it's fine. A lot of people tend to take issue with there are heroes on both sides, finding it confusing because there aren't any heroes on the Separatist side. But like, from their perspective, yeah, Count Dooku and General Grievous would be heroes fighting for what the Separatists believe in. It's meant to foreshadow later lines in the movie, like Palpatine saying good is a point of view, or Anakin saying from my point of view the Jedi are evil. I feel like it's a very clever and misunderstood line that speaks to one of the movie's key themes. And I love how it became the name of a Clone Wars episode that actually showed some of the legitimately good people on the Separatist side. Evil is everywhere also complements the line nicely, since not only is the evil Palpatine leading both sides, but the Republic and Separatists are both considered evil from the other side's perspective.
From my point of view, the Jedi are evil!
Yeah, we got it, thanks. The first paragraph is really, really good, but the second one has a bit of Rise of Skywalker-itis. We're told that the fiendish droid leader, General Grievous, has kidnapped Chancellor Palpatine. Wow, that's an extremely significant event that we're just letting you know about through text. Granted, it's not as bad as Piece of Shit Walker, obviously. It's acceptable to just let us know that Palpatine is already kidnapped, but it's still a bit jarring. Especially because this is literally the first time we've ever heard of General Grievous. So we not only have to process the fact that this new character with a fairly silly name that we've never met before is the droid leader, apparently, but also that he managed to kidnap the Chancellor. Yeah, I don't know, it just kind of feels like part of the story is missing here. You are able to watch the cool-ass 2D Clone Wars show to see the kidnapping yourself, which is better than a fucking Fortnite event. But even so, this isn't the most natural way to convey this event happening. Not a big deal though. And yeah, the final paragraph is pretty simple, but an effective way to prime you for the opening action scene. I love how they don't even need to say who the two Jedi Knights leading the desperate mission are. They know that you know exactly who they are.
This is where the fun begins.
Overall, yeah, I honestly think this crawl is pretty strong. It's got some of my favorite prose out of all of them, and it evokes the feeling of an old-timey war newsreel incredibly well. It suffers a bit by dropping information that would have been cooler to see unfold in the actual movie, but that's not really the crawl's fault. If we can't change the movie itself, this is probably one of the best ways the information we need to know could have been conveyed through text. And yeah, it is a tad corny, but it fits the wartime aesthetic. Honestly, yeah, this one's good. I'm still not sure if the movie it came from is good, or if I just like it because of the memes and the Clone Wars, but I can at least confirm that the opening text at the beginning of the movie is good. You're welcome, prequel fans.
This is the new J.J. Abrams Star Wars film?
I'll never forget watching The Force Awakens in a crowded theater on opening night and getting hit with the wham line. Luke Skywalker has vanished. Suddenly, all the cheering that came about when the Star Wars logo first appeared on screen evaporated, giving way to stunned silence with a couple of gasps thrown in there. I genuinely think this is the most powerful opening sentence out of all the crawls, punctuated even more perfectly by the fact that it fits on a single line. The first bit of post-Return of the Jedi story content you get after 30 years of waiting is this galaxy-shattering news. The fact that your childhood hero is just gone somehow. So why does this intense reveal in the opening crawl work when piece of shit Walker doesn't? Well, first, obviously, a lot can happen in 30 years. The need to draw a straight line out from Return of the Jedi's ending to this crawl is practically non-existent. And second, because it's a compelling mystery setup that the film intends to elaborate on later, not an explicit ass pull that is never elaborated upon and clearly should have happened on screen. Moving along, we learn that the sinister First Order has risen from the ashes of the Empire and will not rest until Skywalker, the last Jedi, has been destroyed. Through this sentence, we learn just enough about the new First Order to entice us and make us fearful. They came from the remnants of the old Empire and they want Luke dead. Those are some pretty explicit and clear stakes. Plus, there's good capitalization on the name First Order, highlighting their importance as the new and current threat. And obviously, I think the next film being titled The Last Jedi retroactively enhances the use of the phrase here. It's one of the very few parts of the trilogy that actually felt cohesive and planned out, even though we know it was obviously just a coincidence now. This first paragraph is excellent, though things take a slight dip in the second one. With the support of the Republic, General Leia Organa leads a brave resistance. The use of both Republic and Resistance is incredibly confusing, and it's something the movie itself never really elaborates on. If the Republic is back, wouldn't the First Order be the Resistance? Cause now it sounds like Leia is resisting the Resistors, which is just bizarre. The fact that both Republic and Resistance are capitalized doesn't really add up either, cause that suggests they have equal importance, both to the galaxy and to the plot of this movie. Spoiler, they don't. Republic really did not need to be capitalized, and it takes away the impact of the Resistance's existence. Especially since the Resistance drives the plot of this movie, while the Republic just sits around waiting to get shot by a laser death beam. The next sentence is fine, but fairly standard. It's pretty obvious that Leia wants Luke back, it's not really too revelatory or anything. Thankfully, the third paragraph sticks the landing. Leia sent her most daring pilot on a secret mission to Jakku, where an old ally has discovered a clue to Luke's whereabouts. Oh hell yeah, now that's an intriguing hook. Not only are we excited to meet the most daring pilot in Leia's repertoire, but we're intrigued to see this clue for ourselves and watch the journey to find our beloved Luke Skywalker unfold. This is an exciting as all hell way to reintroduce us to Star Wars, and in spite of some confusing terminology and unnecessary capitalization in the middle, it's still definitely one of the best opening crawls. Return of the Jedi's crawl is top-notch, perfectly following up on Empire's events while also doing what Rise of Skywalker utterly failed at, serving as a great opening to what was previously the final chapter of the story. This is up there with Revenge of the Sith as being one of the most adventure-serially opening crawls in the saga, letting us know about the encroaching danger in a rather tongue-in-cheek way that doesn't go too far into silliness. Before we get to that though, the first paragraph is all business, letting us know that Luke has returned to Tatooine in order to rescue Han from the clutches of the vile gangster Jabba the Hutt. Fun fact, this is the only crawl in the entire series that mentions Han. I just thought that was interesting. Anyway, yeah, solid first paragraph that draws a straight line out from Empire's ending and lets us know what our main hero is up to at this moment in time. But the second paragraph is where things really get going. Kicking off with the delightfully pulpy Little Does Luke Know, which I adore. It's such a fun way to express the fact that Luke isn't aware about Death Star 2's secret construction. I love it. This is also the perfect information to reveal in a crawl in order to really get the audience's blood pumping and fill them with a sense of dread. They draw you in with the all-caps Galactic Empire and make you think, oh no, what could be worse than the stuff the Empire put the rebels through last time? And then you see what it is and it's like, aw shit, here we go again. It's incredibly ominous and a great reveal that immediately gets shown off in the very first scene in the movie. You don't have that disconnect where you have to find out Palpatine was kidnapped off screen or that the dead spoke off screen without ever getting to see those events for yourself. Here, they tell you Death Star 2 exists, and then you immediately get to witness it visually. The crawl makes sure you don't miss out on seeing anything for yourself, which is a great way to do it. And now we get to the final paragraph. My personal favorite of this crawl and my favorite out of all the final paragraphs in all the crawls. When completed, this ultimate weapon will spell certain doom for the small band of rebels struggling to restore freedom to the galaxy. Now that's an amazing way to lead into the ending of a series. It just has such a sense of finality to it, while also getting you excited to see your favorite group of scrappy underdogs face off against the ultimate weapon of certain doom. It's language like this that perfectly straddles the line between cheesy and exciting, and it sends the hype levels for the final battle you're about to witness through the roof. The stakes are so perfectly laid out, and oh man, I could gush about this all day. The last awesome touch I want to mention with this final paragraph is how it calls back to A New Hope's opening crawl, which ended by discussing the stolen plans that could restore freedom to the galaxy. An idealistic, hopeful concept. But after 2 movies of hardship and turmoil, especially in the last film, the crawl now expresses that the small band of rebels are struggling to restore freedom to the galaxy. That is one of the coolest and most dramatically potent instances of Star Wars being like poetry, sort of. It rhymes. And no one ever talks about it. It's absolutely genius to call back to the first crawl for the finale, just with the added dramatic weight that comes from mentioning that it do be a struggle, which is especially powerful after the events of Empire Strikes Back. This crawl is nothing short of amazing. A perfect lead-in to the finale of the trilogy, and what was previously the finale of all of Star Wars. I honestly don't have any problems with it. It's just an immensely satisfying way to start closing the book on the saga. But ultimately, there was one that it just couldn't top. There's just no beating the classic here. A New Hope's opening crawl is iconic, exciting, a perfect tone setter, a perfect story opener, just everything you could possibly want at the start of a movie, and more. Keep in mind that the point about drawing a straight line from the previous movie to this one is completely moot here. There is no previous movie. There is no previous Star Wars anything. This story just spawned out of thin air, and this opening crawl is your first introduction to this entire universe. And it manages to immediately hook you, right from the opening sentence, which is just so chillingly cool. It is a period of civil war. Ah man, it makes you feel like you're about to witness an Arthurian legend or a Shakespearean epic. But in space! Rebel spaceships, striking from a hidden base, have won their first victory against the evil Galactic Empire. It's such an immediately gripping concept, the idea that there's an underground movement opposing a space empire. You don't know much about either at this point, but your imagination has been captured and you're dying to know more. This leads perfectly into the second paragraph, which I think is my favorite paragraph in any of these crawls. During the battle, rebel spies managed to steal secret plans to the Empire's ultimate weapon, the Death Star, an armored space station with enough power to destroy an entire planet. I'm sorry, what? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine a space station that's so powerful it can just destroy Jupiter or some shit? That's fucking raw as hell. Such an absolutely terrifying concept, and the movie knows it, offering the best use of capitalization in any of these crawls. The emphasis being placed on Death Star is perfect, illustrating its sheer magnitude and terror, while also spicing it up by describing it as the Empire's ultimate weapon. They weren't kidding. Holy shit. The final paragraph rounds it all out by telling us that Princess Leia is being pursued by the Empire's agents as she rushes home, custodian of the stolen plans that can save her people and restore freedom to the galaxy. First of all, I love the unconventional use of the word custodian. It's very creative and it adds some texture to the text. Second, I'll admit that maybe it would be nice to get a brief description of who Princess Leia is. They could call her a secret rebel agent or something, or at least say what she's the princess of. But I don't think it's a huge deal since learning more about her is an intriguing mystery in the film itself. We don't really get to know a ton about her at first, and the crawl does reflect that, so it doesn't really matter too much. All you need to know is that she's the good guy desperately trying to flee the Empire's sinister agents, so you immediately root for her before you've even seen her. I also feel like there's some great dark foreshadowing in saying that the plans can save her people, since if she had safely gotten them to the rebellion in a timely manner, they could have destroyed the Death Star sooner, i.e. before Alderaan went kersplat. Even though Tarkin wasn't planning to destroy Alderaan until after they captured Leia, the Death Star still served as a threat to Leia's people, as well as all people in the galaxy. So yeah, she could have saved her people if she wasn't captured here and tormented by the destruction of said people. It's a small detail, but it's really intriguing and tragic. And of course, ending things off with restore freedom to the galaxy is perfect, establishing what she and the other rebels are fighting for, and signifying that the goals of the rebellion are greater than this one battle. It's heroic, thrilling, and a great way to close out this wonderful tribute to adventure serials, while also getting the ball rolling on one of the most beloved film sagas of all time. It's just such a masterful piece of art, igniting your imagination and getting you ready for all the excitement, terror, and wonder that is to come with this story. Everything about it comes together so well, and it's a true testament to its greatness that 45 years and 8 movies later, it still remains the best opening crawl in all of Star Wars. Anyway, let me know your favorite crawl in the comments or whatever. I'm gonna go laugh about how bad The Rise of Skywalker is or something. Bye!